Afternoon, and thanks very much for putting on the show and inviting me down, Amadis and Gilbert and the team at Village Well and their amazing support crew that I was trying to find my presentation. We were just, Kirsten and I were just saying then that a dairy farmer wouldn't agree probably with Susan's support of supermarkets. I'm a former dairy farmer from down the Princess Highway there, milked about 300 cows, fourth generation dairy farmer, and like a lot of us in Australia, right across Australia, we've been pretty much forced off the land by the supermarkets and the compliance of most of the peak agricultural organisations. I then was a commercial market gardener down in Tasmania, where I discovered direct selling, and that's pretty much been my passion for the last 15 years, and I've set up probably around about 20 CSAs now in Australia, and developed some software and things like that. We set up a foundation a couple of years ago called the Food Connect Foundation, and it's doing some pretty interesting research around the world and collaborating with lots of amazing organisations, both nationally and internationally. In particular with La Via Campesina, the world's largest movement, organised movement of peasant farmers. We brought them over to Australia last year and took them for a tour in Adelaide and in Queensland, and to a lot of farmers' surprise, who thought, why are we having a meeting with a Timor-Leste, a Korean, a Japanese farmer, and they found out that they were both talking about similar stories, similar problems, similar issues. So that's a bit of the background on Food Connect and the Food Connect Foundation. We also have a consultancy called Think Food, which is doing a great project down here with the City of Casey, with the Eater Prizes, and a couple of other projects, more working with local councils. And the other thing that I've been particularly interested in ever since I lost my dairy farm, was this challenge of the ownership of farms. Over the years, traditionally farms have been handed down to the oldest son, and then everyone else thought, well, why can't I get a piece of the picture? And of course that's ridiculous. You can't just keep cutting the farm down, or someone gets it and the rest have to get their inheritance. And what we've ended up as a result of it is I suppose the meeting of what is like food. Growing food is a special type of commodity, but it's been treated by the markets as something completely different, and farmers as such get treated that way, and as such land gets treated that way. So we need to move from a model of ownership, particularly private ownership, to a model of custodianship and access. So yeah, moving the model of ownership, and there's lots of this stuff going on in Australia. There's nothing going really on in the farmland space. Michael Croft, the president of the Australian Food Sovereignty Alliance, has got a small example happening, and Michael's here today up in the Canberra region, particularly around the conservation. They're big in preserving land, but no one is really doing anything active in preserving farmland or converting it to something that the common has, or that the community owns or has participation in. We've spoken about a lot of the pressures. Here's some of the farmland trusts that are going on around the world. Actually, last year a report was released that looked at the 33 farmland trusts in the UK, Canada and the USA. Fantastic report that has a lot of really good questions to ask, and governance structures, models, and all the different things. And this is bits of this are taken from that report. Here's the main challenges. We've spoken about them today for farmers: profitability, affordability of land, ageing farmers. We're losing many farmers. We lose at the current rate 22 farmers per week in Australia, and 3 of them are lost through suicide. And then succession challenges, as I just spoke about, and the development pressures. They work in really 6 ways. They secure the land, they then protect the land by putting a covenant on it, they engage the community in how do we actually manage this land, they look at leasing the land or selling the land in an affordable way to provide affordable access to young farmers or to old farmers or any farmers. They're very professionally run, extremely professionally run, and they're managed in a way that collaborates. A lot of partnerships manage these farmland trusts. So the first part, securing the land. There's so many ways you can secure the land. Oftentimes the land is gifted by councils, by farmers, by other people who own land, like people who own large estates and want to actually gift a portion of the land that's down in the river flat. Institutional investments often help here, so superannuation companies are looking at farmland trusts as an ongoing viable concern, because they're going to be around for a long time, and all the debate, all the talks we've spoken about today, you know, if you were an investor sitting in the room, you'd be silly if you didn't start looking at investing in farmland. You can negotiate vendor terms with farmers who are retiring and their sons don't want to have anything to do with the farm. They can actually live there on the farm until they die, but the farm is being used, and you actually use their wisdom, their machinery, their inherent knowledge of the soils and where the irrigation lines are and where all those things are that every farmer has over time has put underneath the ground. You can come up with arrangements, and there's many of these sorts of arrangements, like a deed of arrangement that actually organised to gift the land back to a community group, and then they'll lease that on to farmers. They construct perpetual agreements. So an agreement that says that this land is going to be used for agricultural purposes, you know, for perpetuity. The way they protect the land is through preservation covenants, and as I said before, or as the question was asked, that in Australia covenants don't really protect a mining company coming in, but people can. Urban containment zones, so basically putting urban containment zones around farmland, and we've heard a few of examples of that today. Boundaries, the same sort of thing, and conservation easements, which are heavily used in Canada. We engage the community, or farmland trusts engage the community, so they provide educational services, and we all heard about the value of awareness with the community. Once people become aware of what food is and how important it is, then they start to actively become co-producers. They actively become people who are then protective of this food, this source of their nourishment, actually the very source of their own lives, once you really dig down deep into it. Processes, so they're very good at working through processes to engage the community to take the land from private ownership or whatever it is into the common trust. And indeed in New South Wales we've got biodynamic farmers up there that are actually in the process of gifting their land to the Indigenous community to then lease it back off that Indigenous community. So we're seeing some amazing examples, and you know, part of it we had, you know, a Canadian, an Italian and a Spanish person here today, but Australia needs to stand up on its feet, because I see amazing examples of stuff happening in Australia that are being replicated around the world, and we are doing some amazing stuff. And these New South Wales farmers who are collaborating with the Indigenous communities to actually gift their land back to them and then lease it back off the Indigenous people is an amazing example of reconciliation where governance isn't really doing that for us. And then they facilitate the understanding. So, you know, if a farmer has to use a pesticide or he has to use something or other, they actually facilitate when's that going to happen, how's that going to happen, all of those sorts of things around it. So it allows farmers the right to farm. Affordable access, this is the big issue. Land it's not farmland is not an investment. It may be to farmers of today, but the farmers of the future, it's not going to be an investment. It is something that we allow access to really good farmers to get on there and grow the best quality food, and we provide the distribution services to get that out there. It's not something that is owned for private use. It won't be owned for private use in the future. You know, these sorts of things are structural differentiation. So the structural differentiation is where if I can explain that one, is where a farmer is being offered 5 million by a developer, but really it's only worth 2 million as a farm, that the community will come up with a 3 million difference, and the farmer still buys it for 2 million. So a superannuation company or a philanthropist might come in and help put that buffer zone in there, so it actually helps the farm stay in farmland, so the people who are seeing it as an investment still get their 5 million, because we're still in that dominant economic paradigm of farmers wanting their superannuation. So there's so many, incredibly, there was a model last year in America where the Farmland Trust negotiated a deal where a farmer on really good land was being offered by a developer. There was a crappy piece of land that a farmer couldn't sell for anything, and the Farmland Trust actually negotiated the sale of the piece of crap land, but the farmer who had the good land being offered by the developer actually got part of the sale. You actually got part of the money from it. And then they're professionally managed, all of the things that go towards engaging the community, putting good managers on who know about farming, who know about education, who know about working with councils, who know about planning laws, and those sorts of things. And then these are the benefits which we've all spoken about today. Thanks very much.